Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim. We talk about horror movies on this show. This is actually a kind of special episode because we usually have a vote every month for an episode on Patreon for our $5 patrons, where they get to vote on one of the movies for one episode for the following month. Since it's October, we had 2 Patreon votes and a free vote which was open for everyone, a public vote. And this is the winner of that vote. The public vote, of course, was all werewolf movies. And the winner, as you can see from the title, is The Howling.
Hey.
From 1981, directed by Joe Dante. Amusingly, Joe Dante's won 2 votes this month, because Gremlins won the Knee-High Mischief vote, and that's also Joe Dante.
He's a fan favorite.
Apparently he is. Apparently people like him. I like him a lot, actually. But, so that's going to be The Howling. We'll start spoiler-free, in case you've not seen it, and you can get maybe a gist of the movie before we start talking about heavy plot details. I think it's a nice courtesy to do that. Give you a chance to hear if it's any good or not. If you've not went back in and checked, yeah, you can do so.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, sometimes I pause. I wait for Tim to hit me with some gold, and he just stares at me and goes, "Yep," and I'm left hanging.
You know, I don't like to start until we get to my usual kind of entrance line, but it's all right.
Until I ask the question, is what you're saying. Okay, right. He's waiting to be
I feel like that's when the curtain's pulled back. I come out. That's when, people listening start throwing their hands in the air and, just dancing around like no one's watching. And that's so.
Come on, Tim. You should have said waving their hands around in the air like they just don't care. Surely that should have been where that sentence went.
But the thing is, though, people do care, though. That's why they care that I'm being introduced. So.
Oh yeah, but the point is they don't care about who sees it, because maybe they're listening to this in their car and they don't care who's seeing them waving their hands about. Well, maybe the traffic officer might have a problem with them waving their hands about in the car. But
so is that what the song is saying? Like, is it wave your hands in the air, like wave them like you just don't care, like you don't care that people see you? Because I always thought that it was kind of like, just wave them like you don't care where your hands are. They can be in the air. They can be doing crazy stuff.
I always understood it as you just don't care who sees you looking like a tit. That was how I always read that lyric. You just don't care. You're just going to move because you feel the passion, and you don't care who sees you doing it.
Interesting. That's an interesting take.
Let us know in the comments which version of the interpretation of the song that you like more. So yeah, this is a werewolf movie, and the gist of this one is that Dee Wallace plays Karen, who is a news anchor for a TV station, I think in LA, because the name dropped that at one point. Yeah. But she's been targeted by a stalker who's been killing women around the city, and she agrees to do like a sort of investigative journalist thing with the cops to help try and catch him. So we open with this scene of her kind of going along with the directions that he's set. Answering a phone call on a payphone, going to this porn theater, this little porn shop, and it results in this sort of showdown where she is terrified, but the cops do shoot him before anything bad happens. That's kind of the setup. But she can't remember this. This is like a traumatic experience for her, where it gives her amnesia, and she's having trouble. She can't get back to work. She's still like too nervous. She's seeing like visions of the guy in her sleep, and she can't get back in front of the news desk. It falls apart. So her doctor recommends that she go and stay in the colony for a couple of weeks. The colony is this retreat up at the coast, and she goes with her husband, and of course the colony is full of wacky characters, and that's all saying spoiler free, but needless to say, a werewolf or wolves are bound to show up at some point in the movie, because that's what the movie's about. But that's The Howling. So I'll ask the question. Now, I assume you've both seen this before, yes?
Yeah, well, actually, it's kind of a funny story. The first time I saw this, I might have seen bits and pieces like growing up or whatever, but the first time I saw it in full was actually last year, I believe. It was either last year or the year before, and I didn't even plan on it. I actually bought a ticket to go see another movie, which, like, I bought the ticket not from like a specific theater, but it was more like this kind of company that puts on like little shows, like they have like special screenings like here in LA and stuff, and so they're doing a screening of the Fantastic Four documentary about the '94 Corman movie.
Yeah, okay.
And so I bought a ticket for that, and every time I've bought a ticket like from these people, it's always been at the Egyptian out here. So that's where I assumed it was. So I bought the ticket. I went there. I gave them the ticket. They scanned it. They let me in and everything. And then I sat down, and I started hearing like a bunch of people around me like talk about werewolves. And I thought like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like everyone's like talking about like werewolves and stuff. And then I was like, I thought someone mentioned how they're excited to see the Howling or something. And then I was like, let me check something real quick. And then I checked like the show times for the theater and realized like, oh, I'm in the Howling right now. Like the ticket I bought was like for some theater in like Santa Monica or something. And I just assumed it was at this one I almost always go to.
Two things. Tim.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm amazed that they let you in with a ticket, but it's not for even
That's
that
what
building.
I was surprised.
That's amazing to me. I don't get that at all.
They just scanned it like, okay, you're in.
Secondly, that for the first half of that story, I was planning on waiting until you finished and then just saying, "That's not funny," because you said it was a funny story. But unfortunately, it was actually kind of funny, so I can't even do that. So now I'm upset at you for not even giving me my joke that I was building up to. You bastard. So anyway, we've both seen it before, so this is a repeat viewing for both of us. I was expecting a yeah from Tim, and he gave me he gave me that story.
Although I gotta say though, if I do ever end up in the wrong theater, as long as they're showing a classic horror movie, I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah. I'm sure you didn't go home crying. So I'll ask the question, Tim.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy The Howling?
I do. It's not my favorite Joe Dante movie. It's not my favorite werewolf movie, but I think there is some definite cool stuff in it. I like the beginning a lot. I like the ending a lot. I think it drags a little bit in the middle, but it's not too bad. It's not like a super long movie or anything. But there was, one or two times like the stuff at the colony. I don't know. It's a little boring at times for me. But other than that, though, I think it's a pretty good movie.
I've got a smirk in my face a little bit because I was expecting to come into this with you loving it and me saying some negative things, but you basically, no, you're not quite exactly, but basically everything you just said, I agree with to some extent.
Yeah.
Which is really odd. I was not expecting us to be this in tuned on this movie. I would actually go one step further and say it's probably my least favourite Joe Dante movie.
Okay.
Out of the ones I've seen.
I think that's fair considering that his other movies are really good.
Yeah, it's partly because it's the least Joe Dante movie of his movies, if that makes sense. Like, it doesn't really feel like... I mean, Dick Miller's there. Obviously, Dick Miller's in all of his movies, so when he shows up, it's like, yeah, of course Dick Miller's in this. I was waiting for him.
Also, the guy that plays the serial killer is from Gremlins too. I was like, Joe Dante really...
Wait, as in Gremlins the number 2 or Gremlins TOO?
Gremlins the number 2, the sequel to Gremlins. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I was just checking because it worked either way in that sense. It's a frustrating one for me because I actually I'm kind of the same boat. I really like the first chunk of it. I like the ending, but some of the stuff at the colony does kind of drag on a little bit, and I think part of it is because there's not a whole lot of plot once they get there. It's just kind of weird. These people are weird, and then eventually werewolves. That's basically what happens there.
But it's really not like they're doing weird werewolf stuff, or at least at first. It seems like it's kind of supposed to be more of a joke about because this is in the 70s, and so I feel like hippies and communes were kind of a bigger thing back then. So I think it's kind of trying to poke fun at that.
The movie came out in 81, just to...
Oh, it did? Oh, I thought it was like 70s.
No, right. 81. So even shooting time, they probably shot it in 1980 at the latest. Or the earliest, rather. So. Yeah.
Well, I wonder then maybe... I mean, I don't know.
It's right at the start of the decade, so it could have been a holdover of that stuff, but...
That kind of self-help, gurus kind of stuff. I don't know. I got the sense that it was kind of making fun of those things a little bit, but yeah, it's not like crazy werewolf stuff is really going on that much until maybe like the last third or so.
I think what was so funny to me about this is I always heard about this one as like one of the main werewolf movies, and it's funny because it came out around the same, it may have even been the same year as American Werewolf in London, which is a better movie, and of course we'll do that at some point on the show. We'll get to it. Don't worry, it's not been forgotten. But it's funny to me that they came out around the same time, and this one is definitely the weaker of the two. Um, it's got some really cool moments, like you said. And I like Dee Wallace a lot, and there's a couple other cast members that I quite like as well. I like there's like when they go to the colony, there's like two other people. There's this other couple who work at the TV station.
Oh right, yeah.
Who investigate, because the guy that like was stalking her at the start. My cats are running around behind me. Forgive them. But like the guy who's stalking her at the start, who like ends up like getting shot by the police, like his body disappears, and of course he's kind of involved in the werewolf stuff, and they're kind of investigating it. And whenever it cut to them, I was actually much more into the movie. Like every time it cuts to them, and they're watching old werewolf movies, or they're going to like check out books about lycanthropes and their
crazy occult shops and stuff.
Yeah, like whenever they were doing all that stuff, I was really into it. It's kind of funny, but the main characters at the this getaway is actually probably the most boring stuff in the movie until it really gets going later on.
Well, yeah, because the other couple that's investigating, they're actually doing like interesting stuff and moving the plot along, and then the other
like they're actually doing. It's like whereas our main character is just at this colony, just kind of like trying not to be mentally ill. She's trying to get over her trauma, but she's just waiting for things to happen. She's just reacting to the characters around her. There's not real driving force. Where is this other couple who are investigating it? They're actually, they're like, no, we're trying to figure this out. We're trying to do things. We're trying to, they find the killer's room and they look at all of his paintings that he's done, and it's kind of creepy, and it's like, oh, what's going on?
And I like that it's like a weird serial killer movie, but also a werewolf movie. I like that kind of combination. But yeah,
I like it. That's actually one of the things I love about the opening, like 20 minutes or 15 minutes, is that it feels like just a grimy, late 70s, early 80s thriller about a serial killer, like in a city. And she's like walking around the streets, like wondering where he is he watching her. Like, it's super creepy. It's actually probably the best sequence of the movie, and it has absolutely nothing to do with a werewolf.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And then, I guess we'll wait to get into spoilers, but
you're going for the goods right there. You're going right for the jump.
I was gonna mention something in the beginning, but I was like, well, just to be safe, we'll get to it later.
That's fair.
But yeah, like even the stuff with the main character, like you said, like I like Dee Wallace a lot. She's great in it, but when you're watching a horror movie about werewolves and you have two characters that are like investigating werewolves and are in trouble and blah blah blah, then the other main character is just like, I feel bad for her, obviously, but all of it is her just kind of recuperating and trying to get better, like you said, and that could be a good drama, but not for a horror werewolf movie.
There's some like there's like someone gets attacked, and I think there's a coyote on the loose, so they go out hunting and stuff. Well, it's kind of just a dull section of the movie. It picks up when it starts to pick up is when Terry, the female, and the couple who have been investigating, she comes up to the colony as well. They're both going to come up, but he stayed back for some of us TV's business, and she comes up on her own first. When she comes up and she starts to like investigate up there, it starts to pick up because it starts to connect to all the stuff she's been investigating and like the other part of the movie back in the city. And she's looking into the old places out here. She notices some things that connects it to other stuff, and like that's where it kind of starts to pick up. And it's actually kind of around there with me. It's funny actually because the movie is like 90 minutes long, which is fine. That's good length for a horror movie. There's nothing wrong with that. But the reason why I meant bring that up is that you don't actually get like a proper werewolf scene per se until maybe an hour in, and then it's right after that our main character. It's almost like if in Halloween Michael Myers only killed one person, and then Laurie found out about him, and it was the final chase right after.
Yeah,
it's kind of like that, where it's a lot of building, and then it's on a rush to the end. I feel like I'm more interested if they discover there's a werewolf early on, which is why I think the other couple investigating are more fun, because they actually, even though they don't know for sure there's something like that going on, they at least think the killer believes in this stuff and it's related to what he was doing, and they're looking into it. But
or I feel like you should have had the main character wanted to maybe investigate this killer, and I mean she's a journalist, so maybe she wants to do a story on him or something, and then trace roots back, like traces roots back to the colony, and then go undercover there as part of an investigation. And then I feel like you could do more interesting stuff, and like you said, be more proactive Yeah, as opposed to just going there to get
Because
better.
a big part of like the plot between the main couple for the bulk of the movie is that she's not ready to have sex after our encounter, because it's a very sexual. This guy had been raping people, and he was showing her a rape, and he was implying he was going to do things to her. So it was a very sexual, a dangerous sexual encounter. And that theme runs throughout the movie. The whole idea of like, wolves being the animal side and letting your animal side out and all that. Obviously, all that thematic stuff is kind of just ingrained into it. But like, she's not ready to do anything, and the husband's cool with it. Like, he's not an asshole. But then later on, she wants to do stuff and he doesn't, and it's just like, right, we get it. Okay, they're not having sex. Okay.
Yeah. And you kind of see there starts being some flirting and stuff going on between the husband and this other girl that's at the colony.
You say girl, it's actually, the correct word is nymphomaniac. They actually diagnose her.
True. Yeah. And I was gonna say, like, there are some kind of like fun characters in the colony, but I don't know. It doesn't really do much to make it that exciting, I guess. But
yeah, I think the sad truth is that a good, probably 50 to 60% of the movie takes place in this colony, and it's the least interesting part, and that's kind of where it drags it down, unfortunately. But the stuff at the start and the end is pretty good. The investigation from the other couple, whenever it cuts to it's pretty good. The werewolf itself, it's kind of hit and miss. Sometimes I thought it looked really good, but there was a couple of weird shots where they'd use like claymation or something like that. Like they thought we wouldn't notice it was like silhouette, so it was just like a sort of claymation or cartoon almost, and I'm like, yeah, that stuck out a little bit. Like,
yeah,
it's a little bit weird.
It kind of sucks, but I can't help but judge like every werewolf I see to American Werewolf in London, and yeah, like the transformation sequences, they are good, but it is that kind of thing, especially with them, being around the same time frame. It's like, all right, that looks good, but it's not American Werewolf in London good.
Do you know my favourite part of the transformation is actually the part that I really like, which I don't think American Werewolf in London does, but it's been a long time since I've watched it. Is I like the whole idea of the snout actually like pulling out.
Oh yeah,
that is like my favourite part of it, because it's like because I mean some werewolves don't have that snout in movies, like they design it like not to have it, but this werewolf has a proper like sort of dog snout, and I like that it actually stretches out and you can see the sort of the gums like stretching out, and the like it's a really cool little effect. And there's another part as well where like a hand gets cut off in werewolf form, and then it transforms into a regular hand, and I thought that looked really good.
Yeah.
So there's some cool effects sprinkled throughout.
Yeah, like I would say it looks good, but it's not gonna be the best werewolf effects you've ever seen.
So some American Werewolf in London bias going on, coming from Tim's side of the screen here.
I can't help it. It's like I don't know. There's something about that's so specific that I can't help but judge every other like werewolf movie.
I get you. It's almost a shame to this movie that it wasn't a couple of years earlier, just so it could have a bit of time in the sunlight.
Yeah.
Before, or the moonlight, I should say, given we're talking about werewolves. Before American Werewolf came along and stole its cheese, but
yeah.
But we are.
Yeah, like you're kind of saying earlier, like I don't want to shit on it too much, because I think there is definitely good stuff there, and it is a shame because I think it could have easily been tweaked, a little bit to make it a little more exciting and whatnot, and it could have been more of a classic. I feel like it does get brought up as being a classic a lot of the times, but I wonder if it's just because
there's not that many great werewolf movies that just they have to fill out that list a little bit. So it's like, let's put in the Howling, even though it's only okay, but just put in the Howling. Yeah,
because like if you're doing like
actually, Tim, do you know what I think it is? Yeah. I think it's the poster. It's got a fantastic poster.
Oh, poster's great. Yeah,
poster and title. The title, the Howling's a great name. The poster's fantastic. It's the claws ripping through the fabric, and you can see the wolf behind the claw marks.
Yeah,
great, fantastic poster.
I'll agree to that. I would also say, again, not going to give anything away, but we mentioned that we like the ending, and I would say there's like the ending, and then there's like the last 5 minutes of the movie. And I always forget how crazy like the last 5 minutes of the movie are.
Yeah, and
I really love that.
Yeah, and when we're talking about how good the ending is, I think we're talking about that last 5 minutes, right?
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about. Like, the stuff before that's okay, it's fine. It's kind of what you'd expect it to end like. But
there's like the normal horror movie ending where you have the kind of the showdown between the heroes and the werewolves and stuff. But then there's a last couple of minutes where you're like, wow, I don't think I've ever really seen any other horror movie do this, and it's kind of awesome.
It's a shame. I don't think it's set up as it could. Like, I feel like if they have to set it up better, it would really mean more. I mean, it's cool for what it's doing. It's great.
Sure.
But it's like, if they'd really set up that this was... okay, full spoilers. Full spoilers now for the Howling. I feel like we've done enough non-spoiler talk now.
Yeah.
So spoilers for the Howling. So the end of the movie is that Dee Wallace's character, she finally gets the courage to come back and like going back on TV. And just before we cut forward to her on the TV station, she says as they're driving away from after the encounter with the only other survivor being Chris, the guy from the the other couple who came in to save the day for the last chunk of the movie. She's like, oh, we need to find a way to make people believe this has happened. And there's a little bit earlier on when they discover it's like everyone at this place is a werewolf, and it's like this cult, and they're all together, and which I wasn't too keen in that twist that everyone here is a werewolf.
I was all right with it.
I don't know. It's one of those things. I kind of hate there's a whole twist where the whole town's in on it. Usually, I'm usually not satisfied with that for some reason.
I think it might be weird if it was like a big town or something, but if it's like, oh, this little kind of commune thing, I think I'm a little more okay with that.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know, for whatever reason, I've just never been like a huge fan of that twist. Whenever I see a movie going that direction, I'm just kind of like, okay, let's just get it over with.
Yeah.
I was going to say there's not good examples of it, there are, but I just typically it's one of those things where when I smell it, when I sniff it out, I'm like, I'm not in the mood for this.
Yeah. I think it can be done pretty poorly a lot of the time, but yeah.
It's just a taste thing. I'm just not a big fan of it, but so she basically goes on the news and she reads a statement about this because I think the implication is that there's not just this group, that there's maybe secret groups of werewolves all over the place, and they're all trying to hide. That was the doctor's thing. The doctor who brought her here in the first place, he's like, no, we have to not just go about killing humans the way that we used to, because we'll get noticed. The best thing for our survival is to be invisible and just no one ever knows we exist. But and that's the one sort of thing that set this up, where I feel like if they'd really set up that they'd done such a good job of convincing people there's no such thing as werewolves, that this ending where she goes on TV and we basically find out that she got a better cut at one point and she transforms into a werewolf live on TV. It's really quite amazing. And then Chris shoots her on live TV with a silver bullet.
It's insane that they go that far to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna show you to the entire, well, I guess not the entire world, probably just whatever that that channel reaches, but still to show that, and then they show like all the people watching it, and then that's crazy enough in of itself, and then to have Chris actually shoot her, I was like, whoa, like.
Yeah, but then
she might be in control of it, like.
And they cut to various people who have met, like Dick Miller's character. He's watching. He's like, "Oh, geez." But it gets to this bar, and the guys are just like, what they do with special effects these days. And then another guy's like, nah, it was real. She turned into a werewolf in the shower, but he doesn't care. Like, it's just this apathy. And I almost feel like this ending, this message of apathy, is kind of a little bit tacked on. I don't know if I really got this as much throughout the movie as I did at the end.
I feel like it feels a little more Joe Dante than the rest of the movie does.
Oh, that's absolutely fair. Yeah, it does. And then we see that the nymphomaniac character has actually survived, and she's getting a rare burger. And we actually end, the credits play over this burger being cooked.
Yeah.
So, there you go. Of course, we skipped a lot of the movie there.
Yeah.
We went straight
I just
to the
think
ending.
that's like... yeah, it's just really cool, though. I can't think of many other movies that have done something like that, like... a movie where you just like, Freddy is just like all over TV screens, or, something like that, where it's like, oh, hey, like we had this really weird, horrific experience, but we just showed it to, millions of people. So I think it's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the werewolf stuff in the middle of the movie is just pretty typical, really. There's not a lot to make it stand out, whereas that is a unique idea, as is the whole idea that this werewolf's pretending to just be a serial killer for, like, the public. Because I do think that opening 15-20 minutes of her, like, on this sting, like, being followed by this stalker, and then, the scene in the little porn theater where he's behind her, but he's like, don't turn around. Like,
Yeah, I think that's especially creepy. His performance and the way he's cast in shadows, and um, yeah, you kind of get the sense that there is something like weird about him. Like you can't really see him like transform, but I don't know, maybe it's because I saw the movie before or something. But like, I got the sense like, oh, like there's something wrong with him, but you can't really see. And then, yeah, when he gets shot or whatever, he turns back to human. But
it's kind of funny how after that though the movie stops being creepy. Like once it gets to werewolves, it's just like, oh yeah, it's just a werewolf movie. That's fine.
Yeah.
But that opening is legitimately really creepy, and I almost wish they just ran with that idea even more. Like if it was just like the whole movie was like a serial killer movie, but you gradually found out over the course of the movie that maybe there's something else.
And I probably could have done with just him as the werewolf, because the other like really good part that I like is, when he comes back, what's the friend's name? Terry?
Yes.
Yeah. So like when she's investigating and, he's kind of gets up and transforms and, oh wait, no, he transformed in front of the other girl, right?
Yeah, he transformed in front of D. Wallace after the fact, but he attacked Terry first.
Oh, he attacked her first. Yeah, okay. And then like, yeah, when he's transforming in front of D. Wallace's character, like I thought that was actually pretty creepy again, and he goes back to being that like weird serial killer, and it's just very menacing.
Yeah, he starts off as a human being first though, and like taunts her and like tells her, just talks to her first and taunts her.
Yeah.
I actually kind of like that when this is just a little moment of humor, which again, it's like it kind of goes against me taking it seriously as a horror movie. But when he shows up in front of Terry in this same room earlier on, she's looking through the files. She's on the phone to Chris, and she's looking through the files, and she's sort of failing through them. She's pulling them out and checking them. I'm looking for the file on this guy. I'm trying to find it, and then the werewolf hand just comes down and pulls it out.
Yeah.
And then she looks up, and it's the werewolf's there. It's so goofy. I laughed out loud, and I think it's supposed to be funny. I don't think it's an unintentional thing, but it's almost like the movie's fighting with itself. It's like the Joe Dante side of the movie's fighting with the horror movie side of the movie.
Yeah, I wonder if he was maybe if it was because it's one of his earlier movies that he might have been a little more constrained.
Yeah, maybe it's just a case of he was hired to make a werewolf horror movie, and it wasn't necessarily his idea or like whatever. I don't know. Maybe it was. Maybe it's just him finding his feet.
It was actually based on a book, which I didn't realize at first. But I was doing like just a little bit of glancery research, and I noticed based on a book. But I think the book's supposed to be pretty different though.
Yeah, just some half-assed research from Tim.
Pretty much. I'm not going to put my full effort into it.
Obviously, the husband gets bit at one point, and he turns down the nymphomaniac repeatedly. He's not interested until he's bit, and then he has that animalistic instinct. And that's the other thing. He's been saying all movie he doesn't eat meat, and then once he's been bit, he's like, "Oh, this chicken's great. Oh, I'll eat anything." Oh man, yeah. He's into it. But he ends up wandering off in the middle of the night, full moon. He meets the nymphomaniac at a fire, campfire, and they just disrobe in front of each other. Full frontal nudity, and they have sex, but they transform whilst having sex. Which I'll give them werewolf sex. I'll give them this. Transforming during sex is actually at least visually kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So again, it's got that moment. It's got the first 15 minutes. It's got the ending. It's maybe got. Like you say, when he transforms in the sort of doctor's office in front of D. Wallace, that scene's pretty good. I like the investigative stuff, because they go to get the body at the morgue, and it's disappeared, which is the first time we go, okay, he's a werewolf. He's got up and left. And they find the old werewolf movies. They're actually watching The Wolfman at one point, lying in bed, and that's a fun little kind of nod to werewolf movies of old. Which I think I think Joe Dante's probably a fan of that movie. He's probably like a fan of these old movies. That's probably why he took this job, I would imagine. But yeah, so you got those things, and I like that, and I like that they find these drawings, and like the drawings match this part of the country when she goes up there and she sees, oh, he was here, he was part of these people. And I think at that point it's like the only way this could all tie together and make sense is if the doctor's in on it and he wanted her here because she was connected to it. And of course it goes that way and it's fine, but like I don't know, the twist just didn't excite me very much.
Yeah,
I mean it works, it just doesn't excite me, I guess is what I'd say about it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Even the like you said before, the ending, it's okay, but it's nothing great. Basically, the friend shows up. He has a gun with some silver bullets, and they kind of just hold everyone back, and then
I actually have a criticism about that to an extent, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes back to Dick Miller's store because he knew he had silver bullets, and he just grabs the whole box and like leaves them some cash, and he drives up, and it's an okay sort of race against the clock. He's trying to drive there in time to like hopefully save people, and he doesn't save his girlfriend, but he managed to save obviously Dee Wallace's character. But my problem with that is that this final whole chunk of the movie, he's got this gun that's just loaded with silver bullets, and he's just taking out werewolves left and right, and I felt like they didn't try and kill them enough without them first to make this feel like it's satisfying, because you never really see them try to kill any other werewolves. You see the one hand get cut off, but you never see people really shoot at werewolves or stab at werewolves or anything else.
Yeah.
So the first time you see anyone try, they succeed and just kill them easily with one shot.
That's a good point. Yeah,
And
it's not like a lot of build up.
Yeah, it just made them feel like they weren't that threatening, because he walked in and he started taking them out one by one, just like boom, boom, boom. You're down, you're down, you're down. And then they set the barn on fire with them all inside, and that's pretty much it. And then of course we have the sort of the actual good ending, which is the TV stuff afterwards. But that's the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit of a shame, because I think I do want to like it more.
I do too. That's the thing. I feel like, and again, you look at the poster, you hear the name, oh, this must be good. And every time I watch it, I'm a little bit disappointed that it's not as good as I think it is in my mind.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's something that I enjoy, and I wouldn't mind watching it occasionally. It's not like gonna be I watch this at least once a year.
Oh yeah, it's not a bad movie like that. That's not what I'm saying. It's just I think it's easier to focus on what things don't work, because it feels like oh, this could be good, but these are the things that aren't working. Yeah.
Now, have you seen any of the sequels?
Do you know, I have not, but now that we've done the first one, I feel like we're kind of.
It's one of those movies where I always forget how many sequels there are.
Oh, there's like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them. Honestly, now that we've done this one, because there's some other movies we're doing this month that might be kickstarting some franchises that we'll maybe work our way through monthly, I feel like we're kind of, inclined to do the rest of these now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think I've seen some of the other ones, but I forget which ones. I know I've seen the third one, which is the Australian knockoff. I
have seen none of them, but I do know that the second one has Reb Brown and Christopher Lee in it, so I am excited as shit to see that one.
Does that one take place in a castle?
I don't know, but the one thing I do know, just from a bit of just ancillary knowledge that I've picked up, is that for some reason they forget what the rules for werewolves are, and all of the rules are actually vampire rules. And you can tell whoever made this wanted to make a vampire movie, but they were told they were making a werewolf movie, but for some reason it stakes through the heart and it's sunlight.
That's actually pretty good. I'm excited for that.
So look forward to the Howling 2, probably sometime in November, because we're probably going to work through the franchise. And I know that the newest one, like the 7th one or whatever it is like a Twilight knockoff, so I'm really excited about that.
Oh, God. Is it one of those franchises that didn't have any for a long time and then had like a 7th one in 2006 or something like that?
Oh, it was newer than that. It was like 2012 or something.
Oh my God, Jesus!
There's this direct-to-video Twilight knockoff. I can't wait. I can't wait to see how bad that is. But there we go. That has been.
That would be. I'm sorry. That would just be so good if like the Howling 2 was like the Howling 2: Curse of the Vampire or something like that.
It's called
The Wrath of Dracula.
I know, because it's got a funny title, actually. Is it showing up in the recommended here? Hold on, I'll find it just a second. It's something about your sister's a werewolf or something.
Your sister's a werewolf?
Yeah, that's actually... Howling 2, your sister is a werewolf.
What the... I don't...
I do not remember that title.
That can't be like the actual US title.
It's the actual title. I think there was an alternate title. Let me see if I can get the alternate title.
Your brother might be a werewolf as well.
Oh dear. The Australian title.
Marsupials.
No, that's
the third one.
That's a later one. No. Okay. The other title. There's also in fact, the US has like 4 titles for this. It's got The Howling 2, It's Not Over Yet. The Howling 2, Bark at the Moon. The Howling 2, She-Wolf.
Okay.
But my favourite which is in a couple of different countries, is Howling 2, Steerba Werewolf Bitch.
Okay.
That's the best one. But no. So look forward to that sometime in about a month or so. Give or take. I mean, if we get a lot of new releases, they might get pushed a little bit, but we're definitely probably going to hit all the rest of these sequels now over the next few months. But there we go. Now that it's on my radar, because I don't want to leave it too long. I want to be able to remember the previous movies when we get to them. So, probably about once a month or so, we'll maybe work through these. But there you go. So that is the Howling. I'm sorry, if you're a big fan of this movie, if you actually think it's a classic, I apologise if we come into this being kind of down on it. But honestly, it's just an okay movie. So I guess we need to rate it actually before I do my wrap up. So.
If anyone does think it's a classic, I wouldn't argue with them. Especially if you're a big fan of werewolves.
But Tim, what do you rate The Howling out of 10?
It is a little difficult because, I don't want to go super low, but again, like we said, don't love it. So I think I'm gonna give it a 6, which is still respectable, but not amazing, not great. It's just a little better than okay, I think.
Yeah, I think I have to even slightly nudge it down to a 5.5, and I feel bad saying that because I love Joe Dante, and there's a couple of great moments in this, but I like watching it again, I really feel like that middle like 45 minutes or so, like from when they get to that, because it actually cuts to one of the old guys at the colony laughing when we transition to it. As soon as it cuts to that, for the next like 45 minutes, like I was just kind of bored and zoning out. I was dozing off a little bit. I was checking my Twitter. I was I just wasn't into it, and
that's fair.
It's kind of a shame. I wish I liked it more. I really did, but there you go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we still had a lot of positive things to say about it.
Oh, we do, yeah. It's not a terrible movie. I think it's just slightly above okay. And, if 5 is dead in the middle, 5 is dead average, then 5.5 is just a little bit better than that.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, there you go. But yeah, so my least favourite Joe Dante movie, out of the ones I've seen. And that includes Small Soldiers, baby. Admittedly, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but I liked that when I seen it, so I'll stick up for it.
I always forget he did that, but I liked that a lot as a kid as well. Actually, I think when we did Gremlins, I was watching it on Netflix, and right after it, the next thing that popped up was like, "Hey, why don't you check out Small Soldiers?" And I was like, "Maybe I will." Netflix.
Maybe
after
I will.
October. So I don't count it as a horror movie, so.
Oh, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Even though they kind of treat, it's kind of got a horror movie structure. It's just not a horror theme. It's not a horror type of character or anything like that. Yeah. Anyway, so that is The Howling. So let us know what you think of it in the comments. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at mild_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mildfuzztv. Of course, we mentioned you get to vote once a month at the $5 tier. You get some other stuff as well. You also, there's the new commentary track tier. The first 2 commentaries for October, because this is the first month we've done it, they're up for free. For everyone. If you just go over to patreon.com/mildfuzztv, you can access them. Even if you're not a patron, you can just check them out and try them. Starting in November, they will be behind the new tier, along with weekly TV commentary tracks for Buffy the Vampire Slayer from me. The audio commentaries for the movies, there's one solo one a month from me, and then there's a group one once a month from me, Tim, and maybe Matt. So so you can check those out. The first 2 are up. Halloween for the solo one, and Darkness Falls for the group one, which they won't always be horror movies, admittedly, but in this case they both are. Just because it was October, it made sense. Do some horror movies. So yeah, that is us. So by all means, check all that stuff out, and thank you once again for watching. Keep watching movies, horror movies, scary movies. I'm forgetting what show I'm doing. Thanks very much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.